evening, folks. Welcome to another edition of the Daily Deuce. I'm Gary Graves here just outside Louisville, Kentucky. And back in Maryland is my good friend and esteemed co-host, John Webster. John, how you doing?
Hey, Gary. Thanks for that great introduction. Looking forward to another great show this week. Looking forward to a lot of fun. We got some football I guess we're going to be talking about. It's some hot pennant races in baseball, and college football is getting ready to start up this weekend. But I want to mention two things. Gary. First, as always, be remiss if I didn't say hi to our producer, John Pitt.
Good evening, fellas.
What's happening, John?
And the other thing I want to say is our thoughts and prayers with all those who are going through these difficult times with the floods down in the South and Louisiana, as well as those that are going through tough times up here in Maryland. We had a tornado in Maryland yesterday, so I know it's going up towards New York now with floods. So our thoughts and prayers are with all of you.
Indeed. And if we can, folks, try to lend a hand one way or the other. All right. So, John, yet another big week of sports, a lot to talk about. But as you alluded to at the beginning, college football. I mean, as we speak, there are games in progress, or maybe not in progress with weather delays. But again, we have another year of college football. Things seem more back to normal now with crowds expected in many games this weekend. You've got most of these teams vaccinated, 85% or more. Does it feel to you more like a normal college season? I mean, does it, do you have that anticipation as opposed to last year where we were starting like in mid-September and even beginning of October in some cases?
It's getting to that point, Gary, but you still got that word out there, that word called COVID. It's still out there, but you see more and more normal conditions coming back now. You got some exciting football games this weekend with Alabama and Miami, Georgia and Clemson. You got fans back in the stadiums. I can smell the hot dogs cooking. I can smell the grass on the field. It's exciting times, but people still need to be cautious and keep doing the right thing and staying safe because COVID is still out there.
Yeah, indeed. And from what I can see, you have to credit the schools for at least putting some kind of COVID protocols in place to ensure fans are safe. And my thing is, it's like if you put these things in place, it's really incumbent upon the fans. If you want to keep going to the games, if you want to have tailgate parties, that kind of thing, just follow the rules, follow the protocols, and that way you can continue, going to the games, especially at some of these schools where you have maybe 7 or 8 home games. That's a lot of chances to get out and cheer. And as a sports fan, I'd love to see fans back out there.
Absolutely agree with you, Gary.
Yeah. So back to the games. Now, you mentioned Alabama and Miami. That's one of several marquee matchups we got going this weekend. I guess, there's also one that's near and dear to your heart with Notre Dame and Florida State on Sunday. What game really jumps out to you as the best, the most attractive one? I'd say for me, it's probably Georgia and Clemson. Who needs that game more, in your opinion, John?
Well, Gary, I think you already answered your own question. I mean, there's only one important game this weekend, man. That's Notre Dame and Florida State. I mean, come on. Hey, that's the most important game there is on the calendar.
I was talking about a team of relevance, John, a team that actually has a chance to win a national championship, to even be in the playoffs. I mean, we're not talking about these also-rans in Tallahassee and South Bend.
My friend, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish will never be an also-ran. We will always be relevant, always be part of the conversation of winning a championship.
All right. Well, I'm going to swing it back to the games that people will actually watch, and that would be probably Georgia and Clemson.
I would agree with you, Gary, that, and all jokes aside, Georgia and Clemson, man, I can think of some great games they've had. over the years. And you know what? Normally you got to wait for the playoffs to get a game like this. You're getting right at the start of the season, Georgia and Clemson. That is going to be an unbelievable game, man. And I don't know, man. I got it as a toss-up right now. I mean, slight edge for me goes to Clemson, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough, man. It's going to be a slobber knocker.
Man, that sounds like an old Willie Jeffries term. Remember him back at Howard? That was one of his favorite terms, slobber knocker. Well, I would give probably the edge to Georgia because if you're Clemson, if you're Clemson, in a sense, you reload every year, much like Alabama. But of course, you've lost Trevor Lawrence. You've lost Etienne, and I mean, even though he's not playing for the Jaguars now, he's out for the year. But without your top quarterback, without your running back, that's a lot to replace. That's a lot of touchdowns. That's a lot of yardage. Georgia's got a whole lot coming back, and I think right now that kind of tilts toward them. But again, does it really matter at this point for either school? Because when you've got at least 9-10 weeks before the first playoff rankings come out, a game like this, where does it really matter? Is it about strength of schedule? Win or lose? Does it matter? How you're playing then or how you're playing now?
The unique situation with this one, with Georgia and Clemson, whoever loses is still going to be in the playoff hunt, in my opinion. I mean, honestly, let's all jokes aside, the Notre Dame-Florida State game. If Notre Dame loses to Florida State, they are out of the talk for the rest of the year because that's a major loss right there. They can't afford that. Miami and Alabama, Miami loses that, they're not going to be part of the conversation either. So that's the unique piece of this puzzle. Either one of these teams could lose, meaning Georgia or Clemson, and they are still in the college football playoff conversation.
Yeah. The thing with Alabama, and of course I have kind of a vested interest, covering an SEC school, Kentucky, that with Alabama, I always want to see how do you reload every year. You lose anywhere from 7 to 8 players to the NFL every year, but yet they come back strong. And I'm always interested to see how they're going to bounce back. And I don't want to say bounce back because they were never down, but just how do they reload? I mean, they've got a dynamic quarterback with Bryce Jones and they've got some talented receivers. It's like, can they run the table again?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. They got some serious challenges on the schedule. I think we talked about a couple weeks ago. I think there's Mississippi State on the schedule, and I think they have to go to Mississippi State this year. Mississippi is going to be a challenge because Lane Kiffin is definitely going to put points up on the board against them. So,
and then we get to see them Monday night against Louisville. Yeah,
and then that last game of the year, I think they go to Auburn this year. And that's no fun to go to Auburn. So they have a schedule where they're going to have to really put it together and play well. Oh, and don't let me forget, they have Texas A&M on that schedule too. And I think they're going to College Station this year. So it's tough. But like you said, Alabama always reloads. And I'm going to tell you something. Yes, Trevor Lawrence is gone. And yes, Etienne is gone. But they have a heck of a quarterback. I got to see too much of him last year against Notre Dame. The kid came in and he threw the ball around that field for almost 400 and some yards, man. I mean, Clemson's going to be tough, man. They are going to be tough. And, if I got to pick them right now, Gary, I tell you what. I'll tell you a secret right now, Gary. I'm taking Clemson Saturday night.
Okay. Well, you heard my pick, Georgia. So we'll circle back and talk trash Sunday or Monday. Or Tuesday, whenever we reconvene with this. Well, okay, moving on to the NFL. Big news this week, Cam Newton is released by the Patriots. What does this mean in the long term for Cam and maybe the Patriots? And who might pick him up in the short term?
Well, I was shocked when New England let him go and released him. But as I stepped back and thought of more about him being released and how he got released and some of the conversations that went on and did not go on, it kind of makes sense. Short term, I don't think he's going to get picked up right now. That's my opinion in the short term. But there are going to be some quarterbacks, unfortunately, who are going to get injured this season. And I think he is going to be able to get on with a team when a quarterback gets injured. I think maybe from what I've read, it was a choice of either being traded or being released. And Cam Newton really wanted to be released. That way he can decide a team he wants to go to. So we'll see. I tell you one team I can see him going to if things go south or something happens to the quarterback. I can see him going to the Raiders, being out there in Las Vegas and playing with them. I mean, I really don't think John Gruden is a fan of his own quarterback, Derek Carr. I mean, that's my personal opinion.
And I've never figured that out. Because,
yeah.
I mean, you know, he's a decent game manager, and that's a good place to start.
He used the term game manager, and he does that. But Gruden is looking for somebody to sling that thing all over the field. And Carr is not somebody that can consistently do that. I mean, really, Cam Newton is not either. But Cam Newton has the ability to win you some games and move you forward. He's a good leader. It's unfortunate, in my opinion, the situation he got caught in. And I can, you know, it's your choice about vaccinations. Then they're saying it really didn't have any part in it and everything. I hear that, but at the same time, I think
I'm skeptical.
Yeah, I think that played a role in it. And again, it's your choice. But if you are not vaccinated, which he is not, and you have a situation where you miss 5 days of practice, the other kid, Mac Jones, started showing some good things about him. And I honestly think that played a role in him being released. Right or wrong, I still think it played a role. Do I think he's going to get another shot in the NFL? Yes. I don't know where, but I think it'll be later on in the season. And you know I'm a New England Patriots fan. So, Mac Jones, you got to go ahead and win it. You didn't know that, Gary? You didn't know I was a New England Patriots fan?
John, I thought you had hitched yourself to another bandwagon right down the road from you.
Oh, I like the Ravens too, but you know, it's the
No, I'm talking about right in your backyard, the Washington football team.
Gary, to talk about the Washington football team, our show is only a half hour. I think that would be a discussion that would go on for a couple of days. I hope that they have a good season this year, but we'll see. I mean, Fitzpatrick, Ron Rivera was doing his press conference today. He was singing Fitzpatrick's praises. He's looking forward to a fantastic season from him. I don't know if that's really going to happen.
Well, yeah, and I think we talked about this before. You just don't know whether you're going to get, Fitz tragic or Fitz magic, from week to week. And I mean, for Washington fans, I sincerely hope that you get Fitz magic. And even along that line, he doesn't have to be magic. Again, I'm a firm believer, execute the offense, keep the ball moving, manage the game. And those opportunities to be a star, to throw the deep bomb, to stand out, they'll set themselves up.
In the famous words of Hank Scram, we just need to matriculate, fellas, gentlemen. Just matriculate down the field. We just need to matriculate. That's all we need here. That's all we need. That's all the Washington football team needs. Rivera is very confident that he has a good product here. I like Ron Rivera, and I hope that he is right, but it's going to be interesting. Dallas Cowboys are going to be better than they were last year. You got Dak Prescott coming back. The Giants are going to be better. Saquon Barkley is going to come back. So in Philly, I think they're going to struggle, but Washington has to really play well against Dallas and the Giants. without a doubt. And they're starting off the season. The San Diego Chargers are nobody's easy team to play. That's going to be a hard game, the first game of the season. And then they come around 3 or 4 days later on a Thursday night and they play the Giants. I could easily see Washington starting the season off 0-2 if they don't come ready to play. It's that simple. The defense is tough. The John Allen, Sweat, Chase Young. Oh, they're tough. They're unbelievable front four. Unbelievable. But on that other side of the ball, what is Fitzpatrick going to bring you? What is he going to do? Can they get it done? You have a couple running backs, Gibson and McKissick, and you got a new kid, Patterson, is from a local kid from this area. I think he's going to have to be a difference maker as well, too. And we'll just see, man. I'm just not really sold on them yet. You know, we'll have to see. Just like we got to see about that team up the Parkway a little bit called the Baltimore Ravens. We'll have to see what happens with them, too.
Yeah, well, since you mentioned that, I mean, with J.K. Dobbins out for the season, I mean, there were big expectations with him with the game. I mean, what do they do now? I mean, you're trying to take some of the load off of Lamar Jackson to run. You add a good running back like that, and now he goes down. Aside from the question of whether he should have been playing in a preseason game, I don't even know if I want to go there because, again, I still think you have to get some reps in, if only for a few plays. And it was just an unfortunate thing that happened. But the Ravens have a lot of questions. They've really got to generate a ground game because you just do not want Lamar, for all of his mobility, for all of his speed, for all of the things that he can do to extend plays, the wear and tear as you get into year 4 with him, you don't want that. You just don't want that. Think of what the toll it took on Michael Vick.
Yeah. The one thing that Lamar Jackson needs to continue to be able to do is find some time to stay in the pocket and continue to improve his passing and his completion rate. I mean, without a doubt, Lamar Jackson is one of the most exciting players in the NFL. And the Ravens have a good team. I think, unfortunately, J.K. Dobbins goes down, but you still got Gus Edwards and a couple other running backs there that are going to get the job done. You know, Ravens are an old-fashioned team. They're going to ground and pound you, you know, and then they're going to have that great defense coming at you on the other side. So I still think they'll be a very good team. And to answer your question about Dobbins and the injury, Gary, you could have one preseason game, you could still get hurt. You could have no preseason games and go straight to the regular season. You could still get hurt. You could have 10 preseason games and you can still get hurt. It's just part of the game. It's part of the game. It's going to happen. It's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate. And some are saying, should you have played him? Okay. It was the third playoff game. You only got third preseason game. I'm sorry. Third preseason game. You only got 3 preseason games before the regular season. If you didn't play him then, what are you going to do? Play him the first week of the season when they play the Raiders and he hadn't taken any snaps or anything? I just, you got to get some snaps in. You got to get some reps in. It's unfortunate, very unfortunate, because he was and still is a heck of a running back.
Yeah. Well, let's hope he gets healthy. Hope he comes back strong next season. Well, as we move into September, and we've talked about college and pro football, let's talk about those September pennant races. And, man, do we have a doozy in the National League West. The Dodgers, the Dodgers officially are tied with the Giants now. The Giants won this afternoon to move back into a first place tie. That was a division they were leading pretty handily until the Dodgers pulled off the blockbuster trades at the deadline and got Max Scherzer, Trey Turner, a couple other guys. But now it's a good old fashioned dogfight, much like it used to be. It's my father, who was a huge baseball fan and lived in New York in the days of Jackie Robinson and Willie Mays and those rivalries. I mean, it brings back the pennant races and dog fights of old. I mean, of course, it hasn't really ebbed that much in the past decade. With the Dodgers finally winning a World Series after the Giants seem to have a dynasty going now. But now you've got them battling against each other. And how do you see that one playing out? I mean, I still think right now it's the Giants to lose just because they've just been consistent all year.
You bring up an interesting point, Gary. And the point is, your dad, remembering the good old days when the Giants were the New York Giants and the Dodgers were the Brooklyn Dodgers. And they had some unbelievable playoff series that they played against each other. Unbelievable. And you're getting a replay of this now today. And I'll be honest with you, I'm rooting for the Giants. I want the Giants to win the division. I can't tell you why. Don't have a reason why. But it's exciting. It's really exciting. I think the Dodgers made some good moves when they picked up Max Scherzer and Trey Turner. That helps them. But the Dodgers still have an Achilles heel, Gary. They still have an inconsistent bullpen. And at any time, it can catch on fire and blow up right in your face.
Yeah. Well, we will definitely see what happens this weekend because the Dodgers, head to San Francisco for a 3-game series. That, of course, I don't think that's going to be the final word, but I think it does kind of give you an idea who might be in the driver's seat, for at least the first couple of weeks. Again, we've seen anything happen in September in baseball, but I think all eyes are going to be on this division. That will be, I mean, that's the division everybody who's a baseball fan is going to be paying attention to. The second one is probably the National League. I mean, I'm sorry, the American League East. With Tampa Bay and the Yankees. They face off, I think, at least a half dozen times before the end of the month. And that's one. I still think it's Tampa Bay's division to lose, but the Yankees are not. I mean, they haven't looked back since they've gotten everybody healthy.
Well, Gary, that's going to be exciting. I think I mentioned to you before, Tampa Bay has the Yankees number, and that's rough. The Yankees have made a couple moves. They added Rizzo at first base, and he's playing well, or was playing well. He unfortunately got ill, had COVID, but he's coming back. Either he's coming back or he will be back. That's going to be an exciting race. It's unbelievable. The grandfather over there in the National League Central, Tony La Russa, was he 75, 76 years old? And he's got the White Sox in first place. I mean, that's a great story. A great story what he's doing there. Also another great story, and they're leading the American League West. Dusty Baker and the Houston Astros. It's great, and everybody was pounding and knocking the Astros because of the no pun intended, the pounding and knocking the trash cans that were going on in the outfield when they won the World Series. But now Dusty Baker has come back. He has steadied the boat there, and look what they're doing. Look what they're doing. And you gotta be happy for Dusty. And deep down, you gotta be rooting for Dusty to finally get a World Series. I mean, this guy can flat out manage. Gary, name a place that he's been where they've had a losing record. He's been to Cincinnati. He's been to the Giants. He's been right now with the Houston Astros. I think he was with the Cubs for a while too. He's won everywhere.
We had a few conversations back in the day.
Yeah, he's a very, very good manager, and he's getting the job done. Now, Gary, I'll tell you this. We moved out the National League, but we forgot one thing, that there's an exciting race going on in the National League East. The Phillies. The Phillies are now in first place. They've overtaken the Atlanta Braves, and the Phillies pulled one out today. The Nationals were winning 6-0 and lost 7-6. The game ended with the Nationals having the kid on third base, and the batter popped out to center field to end the game. So typical Nationals. But
we've seen that story with the bullpen. Even in that glorious year they won the World Series. again, I keep thinking about how bad that team was in May, and then to be hoisting the trophy just before Halloween is still amazing to me. But of course, they've reverted back to being the same old team. I'm not going to throw any more dirt on the Nationals that they haven't already that hasn't already been thrown on them, because I have my questions about the wisdom of when you're within 500, you're still within maybe about 7 or 8 games of the lead, and you trade everybody away. You talk about building for the future, but I still thought they could have gotten a little bit out of what they had there. But what's done is done. The Dodgers are benefiting from Max and Trey. And the hope in Washington is that, they can become competitive again in our lifetime.
Well, this is what I'll say about the Nationals. I have no problem with the Nationals, but their downward trend and their elimination from the playoffs was created by a series where they were swept by the Baltimore Orioles. And that has made my entire season. That I'm just thrilled with that.
You just had to go there, didn't you? You just had to go there.
I'm going to, whether they're winning or losing, I'm going to love my teams, Gary. I'm going to love them.
Yeah.
Even though the O's are 50 games below 500.
and that looks like it's going to happen. But hey, enjoy it, John. Enjoy it when you're looking up at the rest of the division next year. So what else we got to talk about, John?
We may want to ask Pitt. Do we have a question this week, John? Did anybody send a question into us?
Yeah, this week we have Dante from Upper Marlboro asking. He said Oscar Robinson said that Russell Westbrook should have been MVP, citing the triple doubles. Do you think that we've lost respect for the difficulty of getting a triple double in the NBA? What do you guys think of that?
Wow. I don't think we've lost respect for it. I think, there are so, I'm going to say there are a few guys that are really capable of it on a consistent level. So maybe we should have respect for it. On the other hand, we've got an NBA where guys are padding stats just for the sake of padding stats. That's the way it comes across to me. So maybe a triple double does lose some of it. I mean, what do you think, John?
Well, I think that Russell Westbrook is so talented, and he makes a triple double look so easy that everybody thinks they can do it. And this guy comes to play every night. And let me just say this, in my opinion, a triple double is not easy, in my opinion. I've heard players or cynics say that he's padding his stats, that his teammates tap the ball to him so he can get the rebound. I don't buy into that. This guy is getting a triple double, and he's doing it almost every night, man. And it's not easy to do. He's getting that means he's double figures in scoring, he's double figures in rebound, and he's double figures in assist. That's very difficult, Gary. That's very, very hard to do. And I think the guy, the triple double should be respected, but because he does it so consistently, and I won't say it's effortlessly, because this guy puts in effort every night, but I think because he does it so often, people think that it's just anybody can do it. And it's so untrue. This guy can do it because of what he does each and every night on the court. And for somebody like Oscar Robinson, the Big O, one of the 50 greatest players to ever play the game in the NBA, to say that, brother, you better take notice, because the Big O, when he talks, you need to listen.
Yeah. Well, he makes a good point when it comes to Russell Westbrook. Westbrook does make it look easy, and because again, it's every night that I think you have to appreciate the effort that he puts into it. And it is about padding stats in his case. I mean, look at what he did with Washington. Look at what he did for Washington in terms of making them a playoff team in basically in a space of something like 6 or 7 weeks by getting everybody else involved. That's where I think his value comes in. MVP, I mean, he made a good case for himself, but I guess if he was on a winning team, he probably would have gotten it. And sadly, that's the criteria that goes into determining MVP, John.
Well, I'll say this to you, Gary, and you, John Pitt, you make sure you mark the time and the date I said this. The Lakers may not win the championship, but he is going to be in the MVP talk this year because they're going to win anywhere from 55 to 60 games this season. And he is going to be the same Russell Westbrook he has always been, 100 miles an hour up and down that court. And he has a guy named LeBron James on the wing with him and Anthony Davis if he can stay healthy. I'm not saying they're going to win the championship, Gary, but he is going to make them a better team, at least in the regular season. And that MVP is voted on what you do in the regular season.
Yeah. I'd agree with you, John. And again, I think it took Westbrook playing in DC to really understand or appreciate what he brings.
Mm-hmm.
Because, when he's playing elsewhere, when he's in Houston, when he's in Oklahoma City, you don't really get a everyday sense of what he does and what he does well. You can say whatever maybe about his defense sometimes, but again, in terms of offense, in terms of just getting everybody involved, not being selfish, I came to appreciate him, and honestly, I hated to see him go. I mean, he's in a better situation in a sense where he
can win the
championship. But man, I sure hated to see him leave here because again, I thought he could have had that team on the cusp of being contenders.
I agree with you, man, but he's in a lot better position, a lot better scenario than he was here.
Yeah. So when we come back next time, we're going to be talking about the U.S. Open. Of course, it started this week in New York. Mm-hmm. There was a marquee match earlier this week with Coco Gauff and Sloane Stephens, and Sloane Stephens looked like her old self, looked like her 2017 U.S. Open winning self. So by this time next week, we should have a pretty good idea of who's in line to win it on the men's and women's side, even without Venus and Serena in the U.S. Open this year. I look forward to that.
That sounds exciting, man. And like you just said, Sloane Stephens got a really great win the other night over. I'm getting brain dead.
Coco Gauff.
Coco Gauff. So
and made it easy, made it look easy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, she was like a machine out there. So I'm looking forward to the conversation next week. I'm looking forward to some more great sports talk with you, my friend.
Yeah, same here. Hey, folks, tell your friends and family about this show. Support us on YouTube and Facebook. Once again, John, it's been a pleasure. And John Pitt, thanks a lot for keeping things rolling for us. Being a great traffic cop and floor general that you are, man. Hey, we'll see you again next week, folks. Take care.
Hey, take care, everybody. Have a safe week and have a great week.